We have a good bill. We've been through a lot of obstacles we've had to overcome to maintain the bill as a contact preference bill. And we, last year with our Senate sponsor, Senator Dominic Montgomery from Brooklyn, we were able to make some small changes to the bill, some amendments to make it more acceptable. And one of those amendments was suggested by Senator Tom Wayne. And what Senator Wayne wanted in the bill was access for medical history for an adoptee who may just want that. So our contact preference is a little different than some of the other states that already have laws of contact preferences. We welcome our new assembly sponsor, Assemblymember David Weckman from Queens, who actually has, I guess the word clout is a certain amount of clout in Albany. And so we're soon, this is a crucial time for us because we're going to be going into discussions with the Speaker's office, and that is because of Mr. Weckman. So it's good news, but at the same time, you know, we have that word compromise, facing us, and we do not want to compromise with this bill. So if you're here in New York, if you're an adoptee living out of state, do please participate, do whatever you can to help us, and this is not the time to give up. Thank you.
It's just extraordinary film. You know, there are moments in life, and that's all you can say. There are moments in life that are undescribable, that will bring you to tears. So the Child Welfare League focuses very broadly on issues of child welfare, whether it's adoption or foster care or kinship care or prevention. But all of these issues are held together by a couple of themes that cut across, and one is, in fact, identity. The other is human rights. Whether you're thinking about a grandparent that just simply wants to raise their grandchild, no matter how many rooms they have in their home and what the requirements might be. Whether it's a gay couple that simply wants to adopt a baby. Whether it's an adult that wants to know their identity, who their child is. You know, these are human issues that cut across every single area of child welfare concern. And we have to do better in this country by our children, and we have to do better on these issues around identity and human rights. So we are your partners in this, Adam. You have our full support. You have my personal commitment, and congratulations on this extraordinary event today.
A small presence in New York as well. And we're partners also with the Adoption Institute on this and other events that we've done. The center was the first in the country that dealt with post-adoption, pre-adoption issues as a clinic that had nothing to do with placement. And it was really important to me as an adopted person that we provide services that were not focusing on one or the other of the people involved, but on all of them. And so we continue to do that, and it's been a wonderful experience. A couple of things about myself. I was adopted as an infant. It was a closed adoption. And it's been over 40 years now since I went and got my birth certificate. I had a friend who was a lawyer who went and approached a judge who didn't know what was going on, and neither the lawyer nor the judge knew what they were doing. And they both said, well, yeah, why wouldn't you? And so they gave it to me. And that was great, but it wasn't usual. So I had the experience of being part of both my birth and adoptive families for, you know, a very large part of my life. And I think it is something that everyone deserves to have. And when I worked for 30 years in Massachusetts toward change in legislation, and at the final hour I dropped out of the work that I had done for all of those years because they were about to pass a bill that excluded 30 years worth of people from access to their own birth certificate. And if it is a civil right and a human right, which I totally believe, what if women born between 1950 and 1970 were not allowed to vote, but every other woman could? What if African Americans in Georgia and North Dakota didn't have civil rights, but every other person did? It's absurd. You don't pass legislation, you don't, human rights and civil rights are across the board. And I think anyone who gets this, anyone who really is informed, must know that it's not their business, it's ours. We're the only ones in the world who don't have access to our origins. So I think this is a great event. I'm a huge fan of these, and I think that he and Zara have done an amazing job in making this a very widespread information. The kids groups that we do at the center, the music is so important. You're such an influence for them. You've made such a difference in the lives of so many people. And I just want to thank you all for all of your work.
Oldest birth mother, birth parent organization in the country, founded in 1976. I did not expect to speak today. Our president couldn't be here. But since I am up here, I would not have voted for CUP to co-sponsor this event because of the compromise legislation. I have good friends on both sides of this issue. I feel very torn personally, but politically I feel bastard nation, leave no one behind. And I've never seen compromise legislation fixed. It hasn't happened yet. If it ever happens, perhaps I'll look at this differently, but right now, I can't support compromise legislation, and I was one of the original people in New Jersey for at least 20 of those 30 years. So I think I have some credit to speak from. But as far as CUP goes, CUP supports all the educational work that you're doing. We're very thankful for it, for the art, for the movies. But politically, I am in a different place than the organization, and I want to make it clear who I'm speaking for and which piece. Thank you.
So I'm a birth mother, and I'm also a representative of CUP, the Northeastern Region representative, and the Maryland AAC representative. I also took on a new little job recently when myself and Kate O'Connor, who's sitting up there somewhere, founded Maryland Cares, and we now have a bill in the Maryland legislature. It is a quote, clean bill, and it's in the committee right now. It's overdue for a report, but we sit like this waiting. So I just wanted to say Adam has been very supportive of us thus far. We hope if we go further, we hope to see him, maybe even someone else from up there, see him in Maryland. But it is so important. Birth parents, speaking for myself and speaking for the 20 years I've been reunited with my son, actually 21 years this year, and active all that time in AAC and CUP. I have piles of letters like this that say we were not promised confidentiality, and yet I see it interpreted differently by everyone who speaks that word, confidentiality, especially in this work the past week, talking to agency directors, how they're interpreting it. So we have a hard struggle all over the country, but we have to keep going, because the birth mothers who have been part of this all along know that we were promised nothing. Nothing in writing, nothing implied, and for anyone to tell us that, oh, well, the records were sealed, so it was implied that it's going to be confidential. It doesn't work like that with any other business in this world, so it shouldn't. So thank you. And Paul, because I couldn't have done this without a few emails to Paul back and forth, we would never have had that bill in there. And AAC's wonderful website, if you haven't looked at it and you're doing this, it's all there to help you. Take a look, it's wonderful. So thank you very much. And if anyone who's in this audience has any connection at all with Maryland, please come see me. We can use you in some way to help with passing this bill. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ann Maltese. I'm with Assemblyman David Lebanon, Chief of Staff. I'm so happy to be here representing New York State in our bill, which is number A2003. I have my friends here from the Unsealed Initiative. I want to thank Adam for letting us come. It has been an uplifting experience being part of this legislation, to be quite frank with you. I have 18 years of legislative experience. I've worked for very diverse members over the years, and I cannot even tell you how many emails our office has been getting since David agreed to become the prime sponsor of the legislation since Kuhn retired from public service last session. It's just been an amazing experience. I do realize that nobody likes to hear the bad word of compromise legislation, or that something may be missing from a bill that we all want in it. But what I want to share with you is not my role as a legislative assistant, but my understanding of compromise. And sometimes we get a bill out there, we make it a law, then we come back and we add, and we add, and we add, and we add. Something not everybody always wants to hear. Our bill in New York State is exceptionally comprehensive, and thank God for the Unsealed Initiative and Adam's group for helping us along the way and making sure that we have lots of different avenues. It's not perfect. Nothing ever really is. That's why law evolves and changes. So don't be so focused in the fact that there may be something missing. Be focused in on the fact that get it done. Get it done.
I'm Pam Hasegawa from India here, and my birth certificate is noted with my birth name in the library a couple blocks from here. It's pretty exciting to see it there, even though I already had the court order with my name on it and my birth mother's name on it. I'd like to give you three little mantras, two mantras, each with 3 words. That's the magic number. What I've learned in 31 years is that the 3 things that I think are critical for working together on legislation are patience. 31 years, I earned it. Teamwork. That without teamwork, we would not have gotten anywhere. And while a New Jersey bill has not passed in the last 31 years, the whole institution of adoption has been revolutionized. And our work toward this revolutionary change has made an enormous difference in the lives of thousands and thousands and maybe hundreds of a few 100,000 lives of people. Millions. Yeah, right. Okay, thank you, Claudia. So, I'm a process person. I have goals. If I don't get to the goal, I make sure, or I do what I can to make sure along the way that people are not wounded, and that we work together, and that we respect everybody with whom we're working. When I started out in this, I didn't know lobbying from schmobbying. One day I came home from going to Newark with an adoptee who had gotten her birth mother's name the year before, found her birth mother, made a relationship with a sister, and now she was going back to court to see if she could get her birth father's name because her birth mother didn't want to give it to her. Well, that judge was a whole different person from the guy with the same name and the same haircut and the same, not the same attitude. He had a whole different attitude when she went back asking for her birth father's name. And he was as mean as he could be to her. And we left there in tears because he got so mad on behalf of her birth father. It was just awful. And I got home and she went on to her house and I picked the mail out of the box, and what was in there was a Model State Adoption Act. And I thought, what's this? You know, I was involved with Alma. We weren't supposed to do any lobbying. I didn't even know what the word meant. Anyway, the whole first section of it was about records, and it said that adopted people should have a right to their birth certificates, their court records, and their agency records. And I sat there and cried. And then within a couple of hours, I found out that a New Jersey legislator had chaired the committee that had chaired the panel that did all that research. I'm going on too long. Anyway, eventually he, not soon after that was published, he introduced the record section in the New Jersey legislature. And I heard about that, and I called him, and I said, what do I have to do to help you get this passed? And he said, you have to start lobbying. And I said, what's lobbying? And he said, make an appointment with my aide, and you'll find out. So we learned on the hoof, every single one of us did. None of us who's working in this had any training in political science that I'm aware of, or in lobbying. Some of you may have, but the people I know didn't, okay? And so we have made a team. A lot of people have stayed in that core team. Others have had to drop out for a while stuff was going on that they couldn't keep going. But new people, God has sent us new people all the time. And just amazingly, I mean, whoever thought that an adoptive father who was a reporter, I mean, we were begging reporters all the time from New Jersey, and then this guy from the Globe calls us and says, I want to talk to you guys. I'm working on a big article about adoption. Well, that was Adam Pertman. And he wrote this enormous, long, thoughtful, just fabulous series in the Boston Globe. And then here comes Elizabeth Samuels in the early, in 2001. Whoever heard of Elizabeth Samuels in this crowd before 2001? And then she writes this butt-kicking, fabulous article about the history of sealed records. And it turns out that she said and documented everything that we had been saying already for 20 years. And here we had somebody who was a professor in a law school. Thank you, God, again. And this happens to us over and over and over again. And we need to be open, and we need to welcome people who are willing to help us. Okay, teamwork, I did that. Creativity is very important. You got to do what the people in your group have the energy and the wisdom and the talents to do. And that's another thing about openness, is that we have to realize that none of us wrote the book. And that book can always be added to it, can have more chapters, right? Yeah, we're a chapter bunch of people. We want to know that first chapter, and we want to write some of those final chapters. Huh? Okay, the other thing is my mantra, and please keep this one in mind, is initiate, educate, and extrapolate. Everything you think of that's a good idea, don't shut anybody up when they have a good idea about doing something. Let them go. Let them work on it. Help them if you can, and see it happen. Educate, inform. That's what this is all about. And extrapolate. Don't stop at doing the simple thing. Go the next mile. And if you've got some, free-thinking logo like me in your group, don't shut me up. Let me go with it. At least listen to me. Let me talk about it. Let's work it out together. And I have some really good news for you guys. Two pieces. One is that there are two people here. I want to stand up for just 1 second. One is Pete back. Mira is the other one. Stand up for a second. Just stand 1 second. Not everybody here knows you. All right. Pete, Mira, and I made a legislative visit about 2 months ago on a really rotten day. And this was an assembly person who had co-sponsored our bill and then withdrawn his co-sponsorship. And we were devastated. We really were. So we made an appointment to go see him. And the three of us talked with him for an hour and his staff. And he was so interesting because we gave him the pitch, the big lobby, the sell job. And after half an hour he said, okay, I've heard your business. Now I want to know what it will mean to each of you personally if this bill passes. And one of us started to get into the pitch again, and he said, no, I want to hear it from here. What will it mean to you? And so that person started again and said what it would mean to that person's heart. And all of us did. We were crying. Jeez. And the aides were crying. I don't know if the legislator was crying. But about an hour ago, Lori, who is Senator Vitale's aide, showed me her BlackBerry, and she had a note from Senator Vitale saying that legislator is now a yes vote, which puts us at 41 votes. I know I'm taking too long, but I want to say one more thing in that. The 31 years, yeah, is unless you have ruled through it, spelled G-R-U-E-L-E-D. We had 14 years when nothing happened because the assembly speakers didn't want our bill to move. And so there was only one hearing, and we refer to it as the hearing from hell in 2005 because it was totally stacked against us. 14 years, we didn't move a centimeter. And now we have a speaker who is a co-sponsor of the bill. And if we wait until we have the perfect bill, what if the majority changes to the Republican Party? Maybe we'd be lucky and the speaker would be somebody who would support our bill. But there's a chance that wouldn't happen. It's also a chance that there'd be a Democratic speaker if Assemblywoman, if Speaker Oliver were not to be the speaker anymore. It's a balancing act, and you've got to look at so many things, so please don't judge us until you've done it.